Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Storytime with Jesse Bradley. I am, of course, Jesse Bradley. Last I checked, each
Right.
and every time I do this, I come up with a story that I believe to be mostly true, from what I can recall. I don't prepare this in advance whatsoever, and I'm typically trying to figure out what I'm going to tell based on the jam set that happens right before the show. That's why I don't participate. That's why I just listen in. Now, before I get started, I just want to let folks know that whatever I tell may end up venturing into difficult subjects. So this is just a friendly content warning that there might be some difficult subjects I end up falling into not unexpectedly, because with improv, you never know where you're going to go. Also, all of the names and possibly other key details are changed to provide anonymity to anyone who I might be talking about, unless they know that I have permission to talk about, or they have given me permission to talk about them without changing their name or redacting anything. So I was listening to the set, and this particular thing, there's a part we're talking about, when you're working, somewhere, it's like the whole, like, your family, you're part of this family when you're working at a particular job. So I have a very, very true story based on that I'm going to tell right now. It is early in 2000, January of 2002. Oh, sorry, 2003. And I am struggling. So I've been out of college for a couple of years, a little over a year at this point. I had a full-time job as a sixth grade English teacher that I completely flamed out at. The principal essentially told me that either she could give me basically a recommendation as long as I quit, or she could fire, or if I resign, or she could fire me. And I chose to resign because I thought maybe I could go and teach again. And I've been struggling at this point as a substitute teacher. Now, at this point in substitute teaching, you're essentially a babysitter, where with my college degree, I was paid $75 a day to go to whatever class is available and just babysit. Yeah, just play videos, make sure kids are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And it was a struggle too, because teaching is not a year-round thing. In Florida, we typically end in at the end of May, and we start around like mid August. So that you have to account for the like months and months of like having to find work outside of substitute teaching. So at this point, I am at so for some reason, there's a technical college that needed a substitute teacher in a medical coding class. And I'm so surprised by that, because these are adults. They don't really need anyone to just teach them. Typically in a college, you have a professor that doesn't show up, the class is canceled. You don't have to come. It's the greatest thing in the world. So this particular gig is like, hey, we need someone to just be there. And, oh, it's adults. I can just play Neopets all day. Hell, I could just surf the internet all day. Hell yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm at this technical college, and I'm reading the newspaper while everybody's doing their assigned work. And I see this ad in the paper. Look, it is a company looking for an assistant writer. And I'm looking at it and thinking to myself, yeah, I got an English degree. I know how to write. I can absolutely and totally do this. And I apply. I believe you had to email the resume, and I email my resume, and I get a call to come and do an interview. And I look at the address of where the interview is going to take place, and it is in a building right next to a martial arts school. And I'm like, okay, all right. That's an interesting place to be an assistant writer. And I go, and The building is a house. It's a house that's been converted to an office space. And I walk in, and there's all of these guys working on like various things for this martial arts magazine, which happens to be owned by the martial arts school next door. And I start realizing that the person that I'm potentially going to be working for is a local legend here in Orlando. We're going to call him Master Sung in this case. Master Sung is a ninth degree Taekwondo black belt. That's the highest possible degree that you can get. He's the Korean immigrant. He's about 5'2". He's in his 60s at this point. His hands are calloused from breaking cement blocks. Like, this dude is no joke. There's an actual movie that he filmed in Orlando and down in Miami, which I won't go. If you kind of figure it out, martial arts movie, Orlando, Miami, you're going to figure out real quick what that movie is and who this person actually is. So I end up interviewing with him because we talk, and he interviews me, and he just wants to check my credentials and whatnot. And then he explains to me what the project is that he needs assistance on. So for the last, I think 30 years of his life, he has been working on this masterwork, this thing that is going to explain his philosophy, his way of living. That if you read this book and you follow these teachings in this particular book, you will be as successful as he is, as Master Sung. And I'm like, and I need a regular job. I'm living hand to mouth as a substitute teacher. I even just started working at a test prep, like helping elementary school kids and middle school kids with money, like prep to take tests. And I don't really give a shit at this point that I'm going to be helping this guy essentially write a self-help book. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'm interested. I'm completely and totally down. And he's like, okay, we'll get back to you. And a couple of days later, I get the phone call, and his assistant, instructor Mark. So it's something that you need to know about Taekwondo rankings. There are instructors. Instructors, I think, are like anything below 4th degree black belt or 3rd degree black belt. Then you have senior instructors who are higher in the belt ranking system, but not masters. And then you have masters, and then you have grandmasters. And his assistant happens to be, or one of the guys helps running the school, the senior instructor Mark. Senior instructor Mark calls me, and he goes, your Master Sung wants you. We're going to start you at $24,000 a year. When can you start? And $24,000 a year, that's not a whole lot of money. It was more money than I've ever seen in my entire life at that point. So I'm like, oh, and also, by the way, you get free Taekwondo lessons. That's your health plan. That you get $24,000 a year. You get free Taekwondo. You get Christmas off, like, because he celebrates Christmas all the way through like the new year. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm totally in. I am totally in for this. And on the first day, I come in, and I'm going to be working in his office in the school. And when I walk in, I see that on the table are all of these other self-help books from Tony Robbins. There's books from Jack Welch, the former CEO of GE. Like, there's all of these self-help books there that he's clearly using as reference for that he's done a lot of research, and he has figured out, like, this is what he wants his book to be. And when I step into his office for the very first time, and he goes, Jesse, I want you to call me Uncle. And I'm like in the back of my head going, should I still be working here at this point because he wants me to call him uncle? And maybe it's a cultural thing. I've never been in this particular situation before, but I'm also thinking like, okay, I need the money. I want to do this thing that I have a degree in desperately, very much, and yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I can absolutely, I can call you uncle. I can call you Uncle Sam. So I work on the book with him, and this is at this point, I'm like his, I think, seventh or eighth assistant writer because all of the other assistant writers have quit or were fired by him or have been or attempted to sue him or they have sued him. I did not know that until I've been around a little bit longer to find out just from hearsay and various conversations and whatnot. And the work setup is I'm at this desk full of these books, and I'm helping do these edits. And then I sit next to him side by side and help him make revisions. And here's what I learn about him as I'm doing it. Master Sung is a diehard Republican. So in this particular book, he talks about how Jimmy Carter was weak. He was a paper tiger, that he allowed this country to devolve and decay in the 70s, because Jimmy Carter was the first president that actually, the only president of ours who actually said that, yeah, you know what, America, not so great. America's not great. We're kind of shitty. And and as a result of that, just the folks getting kidnapped in Iran, which totally think that was a Republican operation anyway. And Ronald Reagan comes in, and then all of a sudden America is feared once again and respected once again. There are that winning is a choice, that in order to be a winner in life, that you have to choose to be a winner, that regardless of your socioeconomic stances, you can just make the choice of winning, and then bam, you're going to be a winner. And if you follow these like 9 habits of personal power and these 4 steps to personal growth and these 11 ways to be a success. So it's all of this stuff that is couched in self-help, absolutely couched in it. And I'm helping him revise it and I'm helping him go through it. And one of the sticking points is that he talks about when he arrives in America, he wasn't able to read English, and he ends up going to a store. He's so hungry, ends up going to a store, and he ends up buying dog food. And he eats it, and he doesn't realize it's dog food until it's too late. And I'm 22, 23 at this point, and I'm like, that could be perceived as, I don't know, it was the whole stereotype. I'm like, this could be a very stereotypical thing. It could be perceived in a very stereotypical way. And we fought about it multiple times, to where it was like, we kept it in, we took it away, we kept it in, we took it away, we kept it in, and took it away, because I'm trying to get him to this point, getting his book at this point to be this particular way. And we would often have a lot of these types of fights and disagreements and whatnot. And I end up starting to take Taekwondo because I want to better understand this person who I'm working for. And I end up starting to work my way up through the belt system. I'm doing kicks, I'm doing jump kicks, I'm jogging, I'm doing all of these sorts of things. And while I'm doing it, I'm really trying to ignore the cult-like aspects. So case in point, every Thursday, he owned multiple schools across Orlando, and also across like Virginia for some weird reason. And the folks, are all of the teachers, all the instructors, senior instructors, masters from Orlando would come to the flagship location, and their business meeting consisted of the hardest possible workout that you can ever do if you are not at their level, and then lunch at the Korean restaurant next door. And it was the way that they treated him was it almost felt like it was like working in a cult. It was almost felt like it was Trumpian before Trumpism was really a thing. And unlike Trump, Master Sung was a very successful businessman. He owned multiple schools. He had a magazine. He had a following. He knew exactly what he was doing. He's an excellent businessman. And I'm like, and I'm really trying so hard to ignore like all of these things. Like there's even a convention that he has that I end up working the weekend. I didn't have a choice because I'm his right hand, essentially, that I've become a someone who's not exactly someone who can't be really like, well, yeah, I'm a right hand guy. I'm the writer. Everyone's like, you're helping him write his great work. This is amazing. This is awesome. We would take walks whenever we started getting into like issues with the book, and we needed to like just like walk and chat. And there was one particular conversation we had. I was dating somebody, and we had a major falling out. And she decided to date a woman instead of like be with me, and had to move out and all that. And he was not exactly very like progressive about it. He's old fashioned Korean dude. And he actually, and we talked about that, and we're talking about gay marriage, and he looks over to me and he's like, Jesse, are you gay? And I mean, I'm heteroflexible, and of course I couldn't say that to him, because then that would make our working relationship even more strained, and I have to work with this guy every day in his office, sitting next to him typically. So I'm like, no, uncle, I am completely straight. I am totally straight. So, and when you look at these things like in your 30s and your 40s, these are major red flags. These are red flags that if anyone does that to you, or asks you those types of questions, or has those types of personal discussions, particularly their boss, that is a conversation with HR. That is I need to get the fuck out of here. And I was dealing with it because, again, I needed the money. I really needed it. I was desperate to have a full-time job. And then things finally got to a breaking point. It's about like, I think January, like late January, early February of 2004. I've said it's early February 2004, and I've worked for him for over a year at this point, for 13 months. This is now the third job that I've actually lasted over a year. My first one was working at McDonald's when I was 19 as a cook, and then as a weekend maintenance guy, and then back to being a cook. And after that, I worked for Ticketmaster for almost 3 years during the height of the boy band craze. And I was, again, struggling to actually have this is my first full-time job with a salary that I've been at for longer than 3 months. And I'm at a point where we're on the 7th draft. This is my 7th draft of working with it, and we're almost there, and we're almost done. And we're having this discussion about slander, about the meaning of slander. And here I am with my, me being a 24-year-old at this point, with no sense of tact or diplomacy, who's digging in his heels really, really hard, because English is my first language. And I know that there's a difference. I know what slander means, and I know there's a difference. And I'm just digging in really hard, and I don't want to concede, because I want to win this fight. And that's all I really care about in this argument, is I want to win. I which is totally against like his win-win relationship type of thing as part of it. And we're having this argument. And what he does is he raises his fist and he goes, I think you need a nap. And he does this, and he doesn't punch me in the face. It's not a punch. It's more like a playful like nudge to the jaw. And here's again, this guy's a 9th degree black belt. His hands are calloused from breaking concrete. And he could have absolutely killed me. Like he could have lost control and punched me in the face. Like he could have caved in my face if he decided to do that. And it was in that moment that I realized that it's time. It is time for me to go. And I'm so scared because I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. Like I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, is this worth being here anymore? That if this escalates any further, that he could actually decide to hurt me. And no one at that school would believe that he did it because they're all loyal to him. And I'm crying because I'm just so scared of, like, do I D in this? It's like, do I struggle and not pay my bills, or do I struggle being in this really toxic situation? And I take a deep breath. And I'm crying. And I can't even hide it anymore. And I get up and I go, look, I'm done. I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go collect unemployment. And I run out of there. I get my things. I run out of there. He tries to stop me. And I just get the fuck out of there as fast as I can. And I go to my mom's place. And I file a police report on him. Because I want to make sure that, you know, he's going to be held accountable for this. And he isn't, because all he did was playfully nudge me in the jaw. But I had to get the fuck out of there, and I'm glad I did, because no one should have to feel like their life is threatened to reach a breaking point of like getting out of any particular situation. And whenever a company or a job says that we're like family, that's no. Any job should not feel like it's family. Any job, it's a job. Like, and I like my job. I like where I work, and I've liked the other places that I've worked, but I don't like that we're family. We're all in this together. Or because that typically is code for we're going to ask you to do things that's outside of your pay grade, and you're going to like it and you're going to appreciate it because we're family. And I had to get out of there because it was just, that's not my family. It was like working in this weird cult environment. Funny enough, a couple of postscripts here. One, he absolutely appealed me trying to get unemployment. Like, that motherfucker would not let me collect unemployment. He was going to take me, I was going to have to appear in court to basically challenge that, to assert like, here's why I needed my unemployment insurance, because I quit because he punched me in the face, or he playfully hit me in the face, and it was an unsafe work environment. Unfortunately, I didn't need the unemployment for as long as I was collecting it, because I ended up getting another job. I ended up freelancing for a Catholic textbook division of Harcourt, which is no longer around. They were absorbed by Pearson. But I did manage to parlay my writing experience at helping to edit Catholic school textbooks. So there is a little silver lining in working in this like really crazy environment. Whew. So yeah, that's my story for this particular session. A couple of quick plugs. One, I'm going to be telling I'm actually going to be doing a prepared story for Late Night Scaries this Tuesday. It's going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can check out latenightscaries.com for a full schedule and how to watch. I am also going to be on. So I've been working on a story with Risk for the last few months, and it's going to air on Tuesday. So you can go to risk.show.com, listen to it through any of podcast stuff. So yeah, thanks y'all. And make sure to donate Planned Parenthood, any organization that supports women's right to choose.